I'm now joined by Tyron Woodley. He's facing Vicente Luque this coming weekend. This is the lowest ranked opponent you've fought since Dong Young Kim. I think that's probably back in like 2015 along those lines. So it's been a while. Is this more about proving something to yourself with a win here rather than everybody else? I mean, you don't want to lose three in a row, obviously, and there's always a sense of urgency coming into a fight. But is that what the mandate is here?
I already lost 3 in a row, so I don't want to lose 4 in a row. But it's just really to really go out there and perform. And I think part of it is to myself, but I do want to make my coaches proud. They work hard. Even my last 3 fights, I was ready. I trained hard. I was prepared. Every stone was covered, and for some reason, I didn't execute. I didn't perform. So it's not so much for the fans to prove them right or wrong. It's not so much for the ranking system because Vicente Luque is ranked 10th because he don't speak a lot. It's not because of the skill set. It's not because you don't have the ability to knockouts. I think he has several finishes, maybe 90 some percent finishes in the UFC. So he's a tough opponent, heavy hands, good IQ, good striking, very durable, and he wins a lot of fights in the final moments just because he just keeps chipping away. So this is a good test for me. It's a good fight, and I'm excited to go out there and just perform.
Has losing helped change you as a person? Like, does it feel like you're in a better place having lost fights rather than having been the champion? We've kind of discussed this in the past, where being the champion comes with a lot of pressures, whereas it seems like you're really at ease now whenever I talk to you.
I mean, losing doesn't help you become a better fighter, but it helps me become a better man because I could have had a lot of different opportunities to walk away. I've done enough in the sport to be like, oh, okay, well, I'm done. And all of these guys are, beating me, but no one's beating me because they're younger, faster, stronger. They beat me because I didn't perform. If I was to the point where I felt like fighters were just passing me up, I mean, it was just better. There was just, more skill, and it was just, the sport had passed me by, and then I would consider it. But I think when you lose and you see the value lessons in the losses, you make the corrections. It was never the work ethic for me. It was never the skill set. It was never the ability to go out there and fight and perform. It was always just something holding me back. It was more of a mental and emotional thing. Maybe some of these fights didn't mean the same as a Robbie Lawler, Carlos Condit, Darren Till fight, or a fight against, Jay Heron after a loss, or a fight against Koscheck after a loss. Those fights meant different to me because I really looked up to those guys. And then it became the point where I was their biggest fight. I was Usman's biggest fight of his life, Gilbert Burns' biggest fight of his life, Colby, and Vicente Luque as well. All these guys, no matter who they fought before or after me, I'm the person that gave them the most solidification on their resume, and they really didn't do that to me. And I think that I had to redirect in my mind to proving people wrong because there's millions of those people to try to prove wrong. But I got a small circle that create big damage, and I can prove those people right, including myself, including my family, my daughter, my sons, all my coaches, everybody that's put in the work. I'm not the only one doing this. My sister's my assistant as well. She does a million things for me, and I got people worn out and tired and exhausted for what? For me to go out there just to watch paint dry? No, So I want to just focus on myself first, focus on God, focus on my kids, and then focus on a very near and dear people that are in my circle that make this thing work.
Well, I think you're a human example of why proving people wrong is extremely overrated. When you were the champion and you were beating everybody, people were still trying to, hold things against you or say, oh, he didn't do this, didn't do that. It seems like no matter what you did in your career, and you're one of the greatest welterweight champions of all time, nobody was ever satisfied.
Yeah, when you're proving everybody wrong, and you're basically putting yourself in position. Give me 1 second because I think one of our Wi-Fi's is low. Maybe it's mine. But when you're proving everybody wrong, what does that do? If you prove everybody wrong and they're like, oh my God, he did it again. Oh my God, here we go again. And if that happened, then maybe. But at the end of the day, it's not really overrated because I just needed to go out there and prove myself right. And if you do that, the focus will never change. You can get tired of trying to prove people wrong. Even before I had the title, I had to, I didn't come into the UFC and fight one fight and didn't fight for a title. No, I had to prove myself, and it was a time that I had to petition for it. and I petitioned for the biggest and the toughest and the most hard style matchups for me because I felt like with that pressure, I would turn up and I would actually go out there and perform. And with that performance, it would put me in position. And I did that. Look at my resume. Look who I fought. Everybody I fought was either a former title holder, contender, challenger, or interim champ. So that wasn't by that was by design. It wasn't a surprise. It wasn't an accident. It's what I actually sought out to do because if I go out there and I perform my best, I feel like I can beat him. And if I came up short, then I came up short against Carlos Condit or Robbie Lawler or Koshek, somebody that, I mean, they've been at the top of the food chain. And there's guys like Vicente and guys that are maybe even ranked lower than him that can be equally as tough and maybe even harder. They just don't have the name to push you into that position. So my focus now is just to prove the important ones right.
You mentioned to Ariel in your interview with him that was released today that during the fights, I guess with Colby, with Gilbert, with Usman, you could tell that you were losing. You had it in your mind like I'm not able to do this right now. What's going through your mind? Walk me through that. When you have somebody that's beating you in a fight, you know that you're just as good as they are, but at that moment,
Better.
yeah, or better than
Better.
they are,
I was
exactly.
never I was never just as good as any of those guys. I was always better than all of those guys. And it's not a knock on them. It's just the work that I put in before I even got to them. I train with the best striking coaches, the best grapplers, the best wrestlers, the best MMA coaches. And I put myself in a position that if I fought the best brawler like Robbie, I would be successful. If I fought the best striker like Carlos, I would be successful. If I fought the best grappler like Damian Maia or Andre Guevara, I would be successful. The best point fighter like Wonder Boy, I would be successful. And I put myself in that position years and years before I even got to those positions. So it wasn't, a knock on them. It's just that they hadn't had the time yet. Some of those guys have made up the gap. And in time when I was either injured and rehabbing from surgeries, or I just took time away from the sports just to have a regular life, they bridged the gap in between those times with hard work and training. And during those times, I was in a fight. It was more of a conversation with God. It wasn't like I was like, damn, am I losing to him? Punch, he's right there. I see it. It's open. Dude, why did I just let him take me down? Oh, that hurt. Let me move. Like it was just really it was kind of silly thinking back, but it was a real moment. It was just like I saw, but I didn't take. I felt it, but I didn't go. My arms felt heavy, or I just felt like I was in a bad dream, and it was like I couldn't make out, and it was kind of confusing, and I didn't understand why it was happening to me, and why would I let Usman make me back up? Why would I let anybody make me back up? Like I'm the one that they're watching my highlight films. They looked up to me. I'm the one that should be pushing their ass back, and that's kind of what I was having those conversations with myself within those fights.
So what does it take in the future to turn that around? Like if you're in that predicament again, what can you do to kind of block that out and
I
just
mean,
be
I
you?
had to deal with it. I had to address it. I had to deal with it. And I had to address it in training camp. This training camp, yeah, had the traditional hard work, the pushing through your comfort zones and being fatigued. And a lot of times I got tired before practice. I have to do these circuits and whatever I had to do, some specialty training, whether it was with McKee or a boxing coach or whatever. I had to do training before I even got into sparring round so I can be exhausted so they can see how I look in those fights. And let's figure it out. Like, what are you thinking right now? What's going on? What's stopping you from going forward? What's stopping, you know what I mean? Because it's always choices. If I back, I never won a millisecond of a moment of a fight, less known a round of a fight, back and back. And I've never lost any any fraction of any scramble, of any exchange, of anything moving forward. So with that knowledge and me knowing that before we even had a conversation, what would make me want to back up? What would make me want to go second instead of going first? And those are conversations that, obviously they stay within the room with me and my coaches, but those conversations were had. And I think they just addressing it head on and not running from it. And even to the walkout, what are you feeling when you're walking out? What are you feeling when they, is getting 2 or 3 fights close to yours and you're about to walk out there? What are you thinking as your hands are getting wrapped? And just, it's such a psychological sport that we forget to even address that portion. So this training camp had a lot of that as well.
Your training partner, Gerald Mearshart, he lost to Shemaev, I believe, on the same card that you were on. Did that affect you in any way? I know you and him are very close.
I try not to watch try not to watch my teammates fight before I fight. Like I was on the card with Ben when he was fighting when he fought Robbie, and I was fighting I think Usman, and I don't want to watch it because some of these dudes I really love. Like I love Ben, I love Gerald, I love Biggie. All my training partners at Body Shop, all my training partners and Daryl Cobb and everybody. Like I have a real love for these guys. So when they get hurt or they lose, I know what it means to their family. I know what it means to their bank account. I know what it means to their career and their legacy, and it hurts me as well. So I can't watch it because I'm an emotional fighter. So I have to watch it afterwards, or if they win, I also don't want to get too excited and too pumped up because I still got to keep myself composed for my own event. So, unfortunately, I just don't watch it.
For the last fight, there was the press conference, and seemed like it was everybody but yourself and Colby that took part in this thing. Was there going to be a press conference with you and Colby? Because I was watching and I was like, okay, I guess they're having these fighters on first, and then Colby and Tyron are coming out after. And then you guys, I guess, did scrums. Did something fall apart there? Did something happen behind the scenes that prevented that from happening?
I'm not for sure what happened. The original press conference was only me and Kobe, and moments before that press conference took place, it excluded me and Kobe, and they wanted us to do a one-on-one. And at that point, just with the weight cut and just trying to stay focused on the fight and getting myself mentally prepared and ready, I didn't feel the need to have a press conference talking about somebody I knew was in the same building. And if our sport is kind of built on controversy and true and real beef, I didn't understand why we wouldn't be sitting next to each other. It made no sense to me. I don't know if it was because of the election coming up. I don't know what the reason was, but it's not my organization. It's not my position to question those things. They they run this show. I'm blessed to be able to fight and go make a living and actually go out there and show the world what I do best. So those things that are behind the scenes, I try my best now to just really recognize how much is not my business. So at that point, you saw what my answers were because that was more important than the fight itself. What was going on at that point in time, and I just use that as an opportunity to be positive about that. And because you can ask me any question, Tyron, what are you going to do differently, Tyron? Tyron, tell me everything in your life that was going wrong that caused you to lose. Tyron, how can we know you're going to come back this time and do better? I don't owe people. I don't have to tell people my life. I don't have to tell them, promise them that I've done everything to change it. I don't have to go there and give you the blueprint on how I'm going to do it. I can say whatever I want to say. And then Saturday, I can either go out there and turn up or I can do the same thing again. We don't know it's a Saturday. So I don't feel obligated to have to tell everybody what I'm going to do when I got to do it Saturday.
Well, you did use the platform, of course, to spread a good message, so I don't think anybody can
Yeah.
disparage you for that. Now, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
Colby, he's a great fighter. If you take the shtick away, we all know what this guy can do in the cage. But does it hurt more to lose to somebody like that? Somebody that's just been talking, disrespecting you for years and years and years?
But he wasn't really disrespecting me. He was doing the act. And, I knew about the act. I even talked to him about it. I told him it's a different way to do it. He looks stupid and silly, but if that's what he want to do, go ahead and do it. He's like, man, I'm just trying to get money, and I'm just trying to build this up, and we can make money at the end. And I just let him know that I gave him attention one time on a Fox episode, and that was it. And I told him I wouldn't say anything else. So for the longest, he was able to just go and run with it freely because I never said anything about it. I was a champion. I didn't have to address him, and it hurt to lose to him just because of he was willing to use an act to stir up some negative controversy with some things that was very sensitive, whether it was Brazilians, whether it was the political debate, whatever he was doing, it was all a game. And I think certain things you shouldn't play with. And just for someone that I used to pay as a training partner that had never even thought about winning a second against me in any training format ever in life, to lose to a guy like that when I had a chance to go out there and beat him, send a strong message to the division, send a strong message to um, America that we should stand together, and also just to kind of silence him a little bit. It kind of hurt more for those things than anything else. But looking back, I never lost the opportunity to still reach out to those people and send a positive message. In victory or defeat, it's still the platform.
So you and him had discussions behind the scenes, I guess, when you were champion, when he was really trying to come up and become a contender, that he was going to pursue this act.
I mean, I mentor most of this division. You think about Usman, I've got conversations with Usman about, just chill out, we're going to fight, do this, fight this guy, I got your back, when they was driving him about, saying that he was only 30% or whatever. And, I took up for him on Fox. I always gave him his credit. And then the same thing with Kobe, who he should fight, how he should go about getting sponsors. He came out to my gym before he was in the UFC for a training camp, and I was trying to help him that way. And even when he got to the UFC, just saying, hey, man, fight this guy. He got a big buzz, and, you probably can beat him and stuff like that. That I did that for a lot of fighters, and I don't regret doing it. I wasn't insecure. I knew that at some point I can match up with any of those guys. But I remember one time I was at an after party after I beat Darren Till or somebody else, and Usman came to my party, and he was like, he came with Rashad Evans or something, and he was like, how did it feel when they wrapped the belt around you? And I told him, I said, you'll feel it one day, and then you'll have your moment to see what it feels like when you get the belt wrapped around you. To me, it didn't feel the same. I imagined it was going to be like, oh, hallelujah, thank you, Jesus, all over the place. But I had won the belt so many times on the treadmill, so many times in training. I visualized it so many times, and when it happened, it just became a part of the process, and I never really enjoyed it. And I never thought that when he got the belt wrapped around him, it was going to be against me. And I think that's why he was so emotional, and that's why he was crying, and that's why he felt so bad. At the end, when you see my mom come through, because we had that conversation, and I knew he would be champion at one point in time, but I thought that I would have been, defending my belt so many times, moved up to middleweight, got that belt, defended it, and then walked away into the clouds and just, sayonara the sport. And I didn't recognize that, whether it was because Kobe wasn't ready or whatever the case may be, that we fought a little earlier than I thought. And, he came out there and he executed, and he was focused and he was determined, and he beat the greatest welterweight at that time. And, I can never, you never hear me slamming him on that, because he did it, you know what I mean? And now he's a champion, and he has to see what I had to go through, constantly trying to prove himself. So um, that's just a little history for the sport.
And so finally, with that in mind, do you think that for Colby, if he ultimately does become champion one day, that it's not going to be worth it for him because he lost friends, he lost training partners, he lost management, he lost so many things along the way?
Kobe's been that way his whole career before that. He's been that way in wrestling. He's been very self-centered most of his career. And I think he built a couple friends down the road and burned a couple of bridges, with Masvidal and some of these other people. And I don't think it really bothers him, because some people are just out for themselves. So if he gets it, of course he's going to be excited about it. Of course he's going to be happy. And we can't act like that, there's no chance that he can do it, because, he had a good fight against Usman. It's a very close fight. And at the end of the day, he's going to always look out for himself. And that takes you so far. But I think when you think about who's going to be remembered when it's all said and done, whose footprints is going to last the longest in the sand, right now I'm in the front runner. No matter what, I've always been myself, always staying true to my values. And, when it wasn't cool to speak out, I spoke out. And when the division was the toughest, I beat all the best in their prime. I didn't beat the guys on their way. I beat the best in their prime. And, I did it very quietly, and I did it very consistently. And this Saturday is for me. It's for my legacy. It's for me to remind everyone of who I am and what I can do and what I'm capable of. So that's kind of what my focus is. It's just, I think I may get more people pay attention to what I did when I'm done, when I walk away, and they look back at how I did it and under what circumstances I did it in.
Yeah, well, there was always this I guess mistruth that you were an inactive champion. From the day you became the champion to the day you lost the belt, you were the most active male champion in the UFC. And I hope people do look back and recognize that.
Yeah, statistics don't lie, and I think sometimes we don't do research as fight fans. We just listen here and then we just regurgitate. But when you look back, I was the most active, and I had the belt for the most amount of days. And then, I was fighting the elitists. I was fighting the best grappler, the best point fighter, the best brawler, the most heavy-handed up-and-coming fighter. You know what I mean? So I had so many different obstacles that, at that time I wasn't living right, though. My outside life, my personal life was a hands. It was a tornado, and I couldn't expect to keep winning at that level and keep living the way I was living. So I allowed the lifestyle to get to me a bit. So when people think that music and TV and none of that stuff stopped me, it's art. It's all art. They go together. We need to quit trying to separate them. They go together. If someone's playing Call of Duty or Fortnite for 6-7 hours, you're gonna tell me that person's more focused than me. If I'm going into the studio and I'm making hits with Grammy Award winning legendary producers and songwriters, and you can't tell me I'm not focused. I'm just utilizing my paintbrush on a different canvas. So um, my lifestyle was just terrible at that time. I'll be real with you. And right now, I'm back to the basics, not because taking lessons forced me to, because I know it's what got me here. I got back to the Tyron that got me here, and it wasn't what I was doing.
All right, Tyron, well, I always appreciate your honesty and having great conversations with you. Thank you for this. Appreciate it. And best of luck, of course, this weekend against Vicente Luque.
Thank you. Appreciate it.